A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 146th episode of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Over 20 months ago, in April 2020, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on, discussing problems we are facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning, and arrive at common solutions. Today, 145 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have ever anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here like digital learning and NEP and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance, and even evolved topics like mental health. Today, we will look at truancy. Truancy is a problem that all schools deal with to varying degrees. While the entire teaching learning system is built around the student and teachers involved in a simultaneous exchange, students continue to bunk classes for a variety of reasons. Some even end up putting themselves in danger trying to play truant. There are cases where the amount of creativity on display in trying to avoid being in class takes astonishing proportions. With learning getting blended, it has become more important than ever to ensure that students want to be in class. Today, we shall take a look at what schools can do to deal with this particular aspect of education. To speak about this, our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. He served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction.
So lovely topic, Shubhayu. I like this topic. I'd just like to say that in most parts of the world, especially in India and developing countries, education is seen as the gateway to success, to prosperity. And in many ways, it is the way out of the juggi or the ghetto of poverty. There was a man called Ram Swaroop, who was a ground Mali in my last school, who lived in the juggi, often looked malnourished, and had a very serious, massive heart attack when he was in school. Yet, his son went to one of the most prestigious ICSE schools in Dehradun. And this story of sacrifice and commitment to education is repeated in many, many Indian households. Most children do not like to go to school, generally, if they come from very loving, supportive families, where they feel cared for. But if the first school they attend has caring and kind teachers, and the leadership of school helps to bridge this gap between home and school smoothly, I think children take to school like fish take to water. And very often when a child loves school, he comes home happy, and he talks about what happened in school. He talks about his friends. He talks about his ma'am. Ma'am did this and ma'am did that, and I learned this. And that's a happy beginning. And having said this, let me tell you that when the age of 3, I was in a play school and I ran away from school. Not to say that I ran far because the school was just down the lane, but I left school and I came home because, and of course, this was 1955. I was 3 years old and there's hardly any traffic. It was safe because I hated to play with gum. I hated sticky fingers and I hated the smell of matchboxes. And for craft, we were having to make something out of matchboxes and use glue. And I just don't like glue and matchboxes even today. And I ran away because I didn't want to play with these two, substances. And so therefore, what I'm trying to say is there are many reasons why children leave school. We've got to explore the reasons. It can be very, very, some reasons can be very strange. But each reason has not to be scoffed at. It is real for the child. Now, the classical truant in children's art and children's literature is always the child who ambles to school, dragging his bag behind him, and he skips school to go fishing, to pluck flowers. And to draw a more recent picture, people skip schools, and I've seen them sit in McDonald's or in internet parlors, or they go off with their girlfriends to watch a movie. That's the more modern reason why children might skip school. I happened to skip one class in college to go and see Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. It was then an adult movie. I felt very bad about missing some economics classes. but that's the first time and the only time I missed one day in college. And I felt very bad about it. Now, truancy can be defined as the intentional, unjustified, unauthorized, illegitimate absence from compulsory education. It is the deliberate absence from school made by a child on his own or her own free will. A survey conducted in the US in 2017 showed that 11% of students skipped school in one surveyed calendar month. Truancy is frequently the subject of movies and pop culture. The movie Day Off, starring Matthew Broderick, is about a student who takes a day off from school to go to Chicago to be with his girlfriend. Truancy is also the title of a 2008 novel featuring student uprising against a dictatorial educational system. Now, there are different punishments in different countries for truancy. For example, in Denmark, they remove all welfare benefits for the parents if the child is playing truant. In Finland, they have detention classes, and they also have teachers who monitor neighborhood attendance for schools. There's also fines. In Germany, parents are notified by the school. Local child services sometimes will escort these truants to school if the parent cannot control them. In Taiwan, there are fines. In UK, it's a criminal offense, and parents may be fined between 50 and 100 pounds for the first time. It's also imprisonment for 3 years for parents who cannot send their kids to school or do not send their kids to school. In Australia, truancy is very serious. It's a serious problem. Parents are fined and prosecuted. In the US, fines of from $200 to $250 are put onto parents. Of course, there are automated calling systems that inform parents about children missing schools. And India too. Most schools have either cards or swipe cards, attendance systems, and of course, in rural schools, one doesn't know what happens when children have to walk so far to school. But I'm sure that children in rural schools in India are so motivated that they will hardly miss school. In Bhutan and many countries, education is not compulsory. And this, of course, begs the question, should education be made compulsory? Because if you look at the reverse psychology that we apply sometimes to rebellious teenagers, when we make things compulsory, they often don't, they stand up against it. But if you, like Summerhill was a great experiment by A.S. Neil in England, where he did not make attending classes compulsory, and yet there was very little truancy. So sometimes if you don't make something compulsory, children will go to school. Now, most school examination boards have a stipulated amount of days that children have to come. I think it's 70% for ICSE and CBSE. And if you don't achieve this, you don't sit for the exam. But there are ways around this. There's always some loophole that you can get around. The ICSE also stipulates 200 teaching days. This too, schools manipulate and try and force this if they don't get 200 teaching days. The IB, on the other hand, the International Baccalaureate, does not have a stipulated attendance, but children must attend at least 240 hours if you're doing higher level subjects, and a minimum of 150 hours of attendance if you're doing lower level subjects. And if you don't put in these hours, you don't sit for the exam. Now, it is one thing to enforce rules and number of teaching days, etc. But if a school is made interesting, if classes are made interesting, why should a child not want to go to school? Or to put it another way, why would a child hate school to do anything to stay away from it? Now, there are a number of reasons. The first one would be, if a child finds it hard to cope with the academic pressure, if he has learning disabilities, if he hates learning because he's lagging behind in class, school is going to be a chore and he will stay away. Finding school boring and unchallenging is another reason. Romulus Whittaker, the great snake man of India, in his book says that after the chapter on snakes and reptiles finished, He found no chapter interesting in anything, no subject. He only wanted the chapter on reptiles and snakes because he knew that this was going to be his life. So he didn't attend school after that. You have, many cases of, children like this. Sometimes they're influenced by other peers, peer pressure. Some truants will influence other children to stay away from school. Then there are major life changes, like families move residence from one town to another, and children are saying something to parents. They are trying to hurt parents when they play truant and the parents get called to school. Very often the punishment for truancy is more punishment to parents rather than for the child. Sometimes too much parental pressure to excel, making the child opt for subjects that he or she is not interested or doesn't have an aptitude for, could lead to a child staying away from school. Very often cruel and unkind and harsh teachers, uninspiring and demotivated teachers. In government schools, many teachers don't come to school. Sometimes 45 to 50 out of 200 working days, they stay away because there's exam duties, there's training and election duties, there's medical leave. And unhappy and frustrated teachers don't inspire children in the classroom. Very often our colleges, children don't attend classes because the teachers are not in class. And sometimes, continuous failure drives a child away from school. The child has to succeed in some ways. One has to lower the bar sometimes to make a child feel successful. And bullying, teasing, calling names, teasing a child about his economic status, his color, his physical characteristics. Why would a child want to go to school? Sometimes mental distress due to family disputes, a marital breakup, domestic violence, divorce or alcoholism, an abusive father. These are all, the child staying away from school is actually saying something very loud and clear. He's suffering trauma. Very often a child is embarrassed by being told by the school that his parents haven't paid the fees, or that he's not in the right uniform and he can't afford a blazer. So these are other reasons why a child may want to stay away from school. Very often it's early romance with somebody. The child loves somebody from of the opposite sex or whatever, and this leads to a lot of distraction, and the child stays away because the object of his affection is also missing school. Then, of course, there's also the whole idea of drugs and alcohol. And when children get into drugs and alcohol and antisocial behavior, stealing cars, shoplifting, they stay away from school. Sometimes, very often, the child finds that it's more lucrative staying away from school. He can learn much more if he stays at home. And especially towards the end of the academic year, before the exams, if a school doesn't have a very rigid or very well-organized remedial program or revision program, it's often better if a child stays at home and revises. And this is often aided by parents who say it's better to stay at home. Very often, take the case of Leander Pace. Why would he want to go to school when he knew he was going to be a tennis player? So sometimes staying outside school and attending a drama class or art workshops or doing music or doing sports coaching, which is going to be your career in future, keeps people away from school. And of course, one of the biggest reasons why children stay away from school is when parents look at school negatively. When parents give the children the feeling that, oh, we've got enough money, what is school, who are the teachers? When parents talk and belittle and diminish a school, pardon me, children pick this up and they stay away from school. And I think truancy, like anything else, has to be tackled in the bud. We need to listen to children. We need to pick up the early signs of boredom, of tardiness. We need to keep in touch with the child's peers. We learn from our children's friends. We need to keep in close contact with the teachers, the counselor, because if a student knows that the teacher and the parent are in close communication, it's very likely that the child will toe the line. But when he plays one against the other, when one doesn't know what the other is saying or thinking, that's the time the problems occur. We need to keep abreast with our child's academic and sporting and extracurricular progress. We must see falling grades, failure in achievement. These are all signs. We must prepare the child for the knocks in life. We must make the child more resilient. Sometimes failure, sometimes not doing well. These are opportunities for parents to then try and tell the kid that, one has to hang in there, one has to go to school, learn to do with failure. We need to also, we need to not put our expectation on children and over pressurize them. We must be patient when they're not faring well. And we must need to, I think what we need to do is to honor and to applaud what they are doing good at, what they are doing well in, rather than stress on what they're not doing well in. We need to have a positive attitude towards teachers and school. We need to back up the school. We must pull in the same direction as the school and the school authorities. We need to build confidence by praising, as I said, what is happening well in the child's life. Teachers must see the pattern of why a child misses school. On what days is he missing it? Is it some subjects that are falling on those days? Is there an activity the child is keeping away from? A rather large, rotund boy will hate school on the days when there's gymnastics or physical training. Why? Because they're going to laugh at him. So is there a pattern? A good, attentive, caring teacher will pick up signs about why it's happening and when it's happening. And I think if this is checked and handled soon, it's good, because otherwise a habit sets in and a child knows or believes that no one cares and that he could get away with it. And, he'll do it again. He'll repeat the action, if not attended to. Very often, I think truancy is also a cry for help, as I said earlier. It's a cry for help because he's saying something. It's the message behind the behavior. Truancy might just be a vehicle of trying to convey something to the elders. And that is what I have to say on truancy. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I have made some sense. I look forward to listening to the esteemed panel and to my friend and boss, Achin, who will have a lot of statistics, which I am keen to hear. Thank you so much, Subayu. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the wonderful introduction to the topic. Calling truancy a cry for help, I think that really sets the tone for today, because the idea behind having this topic discussed today was to explore the underlying phenomenon, the underlying thought process, which might drive a student to play truant. Also, pardon my audacity, but I think I echo the sentiment of the rest of the audience here. When we are all saying we are very curious to learn, if you went to watch Romeo and Juliet all by yourself, or if you had interesting company. Sir, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic today is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of ICAI, and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and a passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Perfectly.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which is really, I think, very important, and considering the fact that now what we have seen during pandemic, when for last 1.5 years, students have been studying from home. I think this topic assumes even more significance in this particular context. I think Bharat sir gave a wonderful overview. Undoubtedly, as our mentor, as somebody who has been the driving force behind this entire Together for Education webinar series, I think sir gave a very, very holistic and 360-degree perspective of the topic. And we also have a great panel, who I'm sure will share their own experience, words of wisdom. With regard to the practical aspects of this topic, I'll keep my deliberation limited to some numbers, some examples. But I think as far as dealing with truancy is concerned from a schooling perspective, as far as real life examples are concerned, I think no one can speak better than esteemed educators that we have today in our forum. So research has shown again and again that kindergartners and even first graders are chronically absent, and this trend is only increasing around the world. And it also shows that there's a very strong correlation between truancy and subsequently school dropout, which I think is one of the major concerns. And here again, I'm speaking more from a global perspective. Sir referred to it that around the world, many school districts and states have taken punitive measures. So going through some of them, for instance, in US, Los Angeles Unified School District issues students with $250 tickets for truancy violation. The research on school dropout suggests that the decision, because why I'm discussing about school dropout is because what has been seen in many cases that eventually, if not all, but in many cases, unfortunately, it leads to school dropout. And research has shown again and again that the decision to drop out of school is not a sudden or immediate one, but rather the result of a long-term process of withdrawal from school. And we all agree that school engagement and truancy are among the most prominent constructs to be associated as precursors of school dropout. Now, the relationship between the two constructs, of course, when we analyze it, I think there's no doubt about it, the school engagement has got a lot to do. But that's not the only factor. There are personal reasons as well. Now, I think apart from school, I think family also plays a very important role. The kind of challenges that we have seen, especially during pandemic, seen job losses, we have seen people migrating back to the native place. We have seen, huge challenge with regard to people losing their near and dear ones. And unfortunately, this is going to have a huge impact in terms of school dropout. And not only, again, from a national perspective, but from a global perspective. A lot of children, unfortunately, a lot of children, and especially from the lower end of the pyramid, first generation learners, children who really need to come up in life, many of them will bear the brunt of it. Now, one of the pressing topics for educational equity in OECD countries is early school leaving or school dropout. Students do not complete their post-compulsory education, because then again, the yardstick for compulsory education varies from country to country. There are legislations in place, but as far as post-compulsory education is concerned, the moment that voluntary element comes in, we see a risk of societal exclusion, because the successful completion of secondary education, undoubtedly, it leads to a better job, better upliftment, healthier lifestyle. And we're not discussing about a candidate alone. We're discussing about the entire family, at times the entire community that he or she comes from. It serves as a great example to other people. Now, around the world, if we take a just small tour, and if you look at some countries, in Switzerland, for example, as in other European countries, the term school dropout describes an 18 to 24-year-old person who has not successfully completed post-compulsory education and has not become another type of training. So here again, the focus shifts to post-compulsory education, and the age bracket is 18 to 24. In European Union, the rate of school dropout varies greatly between different countries, with an average rate of around 13%, 13. However, the share of early school leavers among foreign-born is more than twice as high for natives. In Europe, for instance, foreign-born is being seen, the children of migrants, their rate of school dropout is almost double, almost 25.5%. So this again proves that challenges at home have a very strong bearing on students not being able to pursue their education. Similarly, dropout rates in Switzerland that we were discussing a short while back differs greatly according to students' origin. Whether born in Switzerland, dropout rate is around 6%, whereas among students who are born abroad, rate is around 14%. So in contemporary research, there are various theoretical approaches to analyze the process of gradual withdrawal from school. The concept of hidden school dropout focuses on psychological absenteeism from school and states that students can be physically present at school but distance themselves mentally from it. Research says that's the first step. Physically present, but mentally absent, not being able to connect, not being able to engage. Now, the approach of school annihilation focuses on a multi-dimensional set of negative attitude, and not only towards the school, but towards the social or academic domains. And there's also a very strong emotional cognitive element to the whole thing. Now, if you look at some numbers, average across OECD countries, roughly around 21% of students had skipped a day of school, and 48% of students had arrived late for schools in the 2 weeks prior to the PISA test. So during PISA test, this survey was carried out. That, okay, today is the day of PISA test. 2 weeks prior to the test, it was seen that at least 21% had skipped a day. And 48%, almost 50%, had arrived late for school. And in some countries, like for instance, Georgia, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, at least 1 in 5 students had skipped school at least 3 times during that period. So within a period of fortnight, like 2 weeks, skipping school 3 times. It's substantial, right? Now, the countries and economies where fewer students had skipped a whole day of school were also the countries with higher average reading performance. So cities like in China, cities like Beijing, Shanghai, also around the world, countries like Finland, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Sweden, Chinese Taipei, they fared really well. Lower absenteeism, better performance, direct correlation. Now, when you look at it, engagement is one aspect. I think Birds also referred to bullying. That is another very, very important reason, because frequently bullied students were more likely to have skipped school. There's a fear psychosis which sets in. Whereas students who valued school enjoyed better disciplinary climate. And also they scored higher in terms of their reading assessment, received greater emotional support from parents. Now, not all students are equally likely to skip school. So research also showed that boys skip school and arrive late for school more frequently than girls. And I think that's quite common around the world. Also, according to school principals, there was a survey OECD had carried out in 2015. School principals from around the world, based on their input, it has been proved that truancy problems are more likely to hinder learning in urban schools than in rural schools. Also, urban students frequently arrive late for schools, more frequently than rural students do. Of course, congestion in cities, traffic, many reasons. And there's no doubt about it that adverse consequences of truancy, I think it's a no-brainer. Students falling out, falling behind their class, eventually dropping out at some point of time. The other aspect is it also has a huge negative bearing on other students, because in pervasive, students' truancy can hurt other students, because the moment if students who arrive late for school or skip classes, if they fall behind, require extra assistance, the flow of instruction in class is disrupted. And the classmates, particularly those who might be working closely with truants, may suffer. Of course, every child has an individual learning graph, and there's nothing wrong with the child asking for more attention or asking repeated questions. That's completely okay. But if this happens because of the fact that the child is frequently absent, naturally it's something that really slows down the progress. Also, at times it generates resentment among students who attend class regularly, and sympathy, and then again there's a feeling that, okay, we are attending our class regularly, but our friend maybe having a great time outside, so sets the wrong example. So I think these were some small facts that I wanted to discuss and share with all of you. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. And as I rightly mentioned, that this particular topic, I think no one can explain better than esteemed educators, school principals who have been running great institutions for decades. They have been there, done that, and seen it all. So we have a great panel here today, and I really look forward to the deliberation on this topic. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for sharing those wonderful bits of information with us. Ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a fantastic panel lined up for you. But before we go into the panel discussion, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech platform where we create short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. So for every topic, for every subject in the school curriculum, right from class 1 to class 12, you would find Notebook videos that are built for that topic. Now, these videos come in handy in two cases. One, when you as a teacher are taking a class, you can play these videos, whether it's an online class or an offline class, you can play these videos and give your students a more visual introduction to the topic at hand. Also, the students have access to these videos on their personal devices, and months later, when they need to revise a particular topic, they can always access these videos on their smartphones or laptops or whatever device that they have access to. And they can then go through those videos time and again, as many times as they want, until they get an absolutely crystal clear idea of what you had explained in class that day. What I'm going to do now is play you a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos before we start with the discussion.
Louis XVI was in a fix. He knew that he had to increase taxes. The country was already reeling under high prices and low harvests. Increase of taxes could be an extremely bad move. It was all the more problematic since France was a society that was divided by class, profession, and status. It was categorized into three estates. The first consisting of its clergy, the second consisting of noblemen and aristocracy, and the third consisting of professionals, merchants, artisans, and farmers. The third estate was the only one that paid taxes. Both the church and the aristocracy was exempt from state taxes. The poor peasants and farmers not only had to pay tithe or state tax, but also had to give up a tenth of their agricultural produce to the church as tithe. Apart from this, they also had to pay taxes to their lords or noblemen, as most farmers were working in fields owned by the nobles. Nobles held 60% of total agricultural land at that time in France. To raise taxes, Louis XVI needed approval and support from a traditional assembly, the Estates General, which had not met for 175 years. He prepared a stunning hall to receive the delegates of all the three estates on 5th of May 1789. The first and the second estates sent 300 representatives each, while the third estate was represented by 600 members.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was just a short snippet of one of the notebook videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, or visit our iOS and Android mobile apps, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. With that done, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panel that we have for you today. We have with us Mrs. Shakuntala Jaisinghani, who has a proven track record of more than 4 decades in the field of education as teacher, principal, director, consultant, teacher trainer, and inspector of schools in India and abroad. She's been a teacher for 22 years with a wide range of teaching science, maths, and English to primary, secondary, and senior secondary classes, a principal and an administrator for 20 years, having set up multi-scale educational entities with a very sound knowledge of Indian and international curricula. She has played a multifaceted role in all fields of education. Currently, she is the director of KJEI Trinity Group of Schools and Junior College. She's been a school inspector in UAE for quality assessment for the Dubai Knowledge and Human Development Authority, a consultant for the IGCSE school in Tokyo, a textbook validator for Poda Management in Mumbai, a master trainer for CBSE at the Pune COE, a master trainer for TOT assessment training program delivered by CAER, teacher trainer for core subjects of CIE Checkpoint. And her achievements include International Leadership Excellence Award by Macadamia Dubai, Nation Building Award by Rotary Club of Pune, International School Award Leadership Award by the British Council, and the Best Principal Award by Rajasthan Board of Education for excellent results in the board exams. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. We are privileged to have you back on the platform. We are also privileged to have with us Mrs. Trapasi Pramanik. Her journey in the field of education has been over long years. She joined as an English teacher and later as a social science teacher at the Siddharth Public School, Ranchi in the year 1992. She then went on to work at the Leela Janki Public School, Bokaro as principal from 1996 to 2010. She is currently serving in the Radha Govind Senior Secondary Public School, Ramgarh for the last 11 years as the principal. For her, the journey of being a principal is very challenging. For her, education is the process of facilitating learning as acquisition of knowledge along with life skills, values, morals, beliefs, and habits. She's always tried to integrate her profession with the social custom, traditional values to the children, which she has accumulated traveling in different nooks and corners of India. In this walk of life, she's got both pain as well as pleasure, and some of her achievements include the Avantika Rashtriya Shikshak Samman 2016, Certificate of Appreciation from Global Science Olympiad as organized by India Environment Society and technical support of UNESCO, Avantika Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam National Award 2016, Mahatma Gandhi Rashtra Bhasha Hindi Prachar Sansthan appreciated for Adarsh Prachir Puraskar, Promoting Cancer Awareness and AIDS Society, Award and Certificate of Appreciation by Minister Human Resource Development Government of India for Leadership and Managerial Skills, Certificate of Felicitation Indian Art Promoting Rangotsav Celebration, a certificate for the working of the welfare of underprivileged kids, and for the last 5 years, she has been appointed as a CTET observer by the CBSE. She currently also holds the post of treasurer for the Sahodaya complex of Ramgarh. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. We are privileged to have you on the platform. We also have with us today Mrs. Chandni Rukhaya, who is the principal of the Central Public School in Bhiwandi, Thane. She's been a dedicated principal with over 27 years of experience. Is a result-oriented professional focused on holistic development of students who ensures extremely safe student environments with background-checked staff and appropriate security measures. She emphasizes on continuous faculty training to ensure top-notch education for her students. She also engages in constructive parent interaction and has a reputation of being an excellent administrative, time-managed, and delegated person. She's been playing the role of principals since March 2015. She's also worked as an observer as well as CS in CTET examinations. She worked as a member of the flying squad and an observer in CBSE examinations, and she was given the opportunity by the CBSE to inspect various schools for their CBSE affiliation. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. We are privileged to have you here. I shall now start my video and stop my share. I would request the other panelists to please switch on your videos as well. Once again, a very good evening and welcome to this discussion. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Shakuntala ma'am, if I may come to you first. You have decades of experience, and I'm sure you have dealt with multiple instances of truancy at various stages. In your opinion, is it more of a system issue, or is it more of a student's individual issue that they're deciding to not attend classes? Ma'am, you'll have to please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. First of all, let me thank you for the nice introduction and also the previous two speakers who I think said it all. Actually, Mr. Burett has enumerated all the reasons that are possible for truancy. And I totally agree with him. But I particularly feel that truancy in our milieu is less, especially now when the communication between the school and the parents is so much more than it used to be in the earlier days. That even if the child doesn't come for one day, the parent is informed and immediately steps are taken. And earlier, yes, there were many ways in which the children could do it. And I personally feel there are three major reasons for truancy among children, especially I'm talking about Indian scenario. In US and other places, it's the education is state funded. So it becomes the responsibility of the government to make sure that the students go to school and they are giving them free education. Here it is more a voluntary one, as you said, and it is for the parents and the schools responsibility to make sure that the children are coming to school, because definitely truancy plays a major role in the effect it has on the academics of the student. So it is very important that they attend school and do not miss whatever is being taught. So because that would then make them a little backward in what is happening in the class. And as very rightly said, that sometimes when the students are absent and the teacher has to pay more attention to that student, the rest are neglected. So all these things do happen. And as I said, the three major reasons I feel: one is fear, second is boredom, and third is the thrill to do something which you are not supposed to do. So in the earlier cases, I think when the child is very small, that fear of coming to school, the little ones, how many of them have even developed psychosomatic conditions like vomiting and all. I know of many children, little ones, who would start vomiting in the morning because they don't want to go to school. Because again, the fear of being, they are in a very, their cocoon of the family. And then to be sent out in the open among so many people, there is fear in the child, that security blanket is being removed for the child. So that naturally hinders the child from being, happy to be going to school. Of course, there are other children who are very happy to go to school because they love to be with others. So it depends totally on the type of child. And also if it is a micro environment in the house, families with having only one child, that particular child is apple of the eye of everyone in the family. So for them to go out and be one among many is a little daunting. That is one reason. The other type of fear is, I remember this from my own brother's experience. He had failed in one subject and he had to show the report card and get it signed by our parents. He was afraid that he would get scolding. So he would not go to school, because if he went to school, he would be asked, where is the report card, signed report card? If he showed it at home, he would get a shout. So he would just while away the day. And for 1 week, this happened, and he got caught when my mother found some stubs of, tickets, of bus tickets in his pocket. And then she told him, "How did you get these? You were going to school." Then the whole thing came out, and of course, my parents were wise enough to understand that he was afraid. That is why. So tried to, pacify him and tell him it's okay. It's all right, there's nothing to worry about. So that is another kind of fear that a child might have. The next is the boredom. If you are bored with studies, because school is something which the children don't come to school voluntarily. They come to school because they have to come to school. Everyone does. They have to come. Parents send them. It's expected of them, but they don't understand why they have to come to a school because they don't understand. And also, I think it is the way we teach earlier. Of course, the new changes have really made it much better. But earlier, it was very disconnected with real life, the teaching in the school. It was all about subjects. It was all about some abstract knowledge which we are making the children hear from and learn and write down what they've learned. Very boring. So, and it made no sense to them. Why are we doing it? So that is why they would get bored very easily, especially the more intelligent ones. And yes, of course, those the gifted children, again, if they found that they were not only on par with the class, but they were much above it, and they found the rest of the thing which they already know being done in school, they would be bored. So that is another reason why they wouldn't want to come to school and come out with some excuse for not going to school, Then the third is the thrill of the older children who have this kind of thrill. Let's not go to school. Let's go out with friends and enjoy ourselves. I think in college we've all done it. Let's all be very honest about it. All of us, when we were in college, we did bunk classes, we did go out with friends, went to movies or other things. All this happened, but that was not a serious thing. It was just a 1 day or 2 days, 1 or 2 days, and it really didn't affect anything, majorly. But if it leads to a kind of, continuous truancy and then that leads to a dropout, then it becomes a major problem. So I think that is where one needs to see how to deal with those issues. Today we have psychologists, we have counselors in our schools who are ready to help out the children in trying to understand their reasons. We are helping those who are in need of help. We are looking at special education needs of students. That is becoming very important. I'm surprised because in my time we had nothing called SEN, that is special education needs children. There was nothing like that. Nobody thought about it. Everyone, if the child did not understand, they were called dull children, or they were called, that they cannot cope up with it. And the parents would get angry with the children. You're not paying attention. We did not understand that they did have serious problems, which are to be treated rather than to be, shouted at. But now things are changing. We are all in a very different place. And I think right now in schools, especially in urban schools, in the good schools, children are more than happy to be in school. The schools have made it entertaining, enough, interesting enough. There are so many activities happening in schools. I'm talking about the good schools where they are bringing in a lot of extracurricular activities, which are now becoming curricular. And with the new NEP coming in, I think that's a very good, way of trying to stop this by giving this freedom to the children to study after a gap. This is another thing, which I personally feel if we also have credit system like they have in the other countries. In universities, they have credit systems. You have to finish a certain number of hours of learning, and then it doesn't matter. You can do it at your own pace. So it becomes possible because many times what happens due to certain factors, economic factors, not having money to pay the fees, the children have to leave studying. Then for other personal reasons at home, somebody falls ill, parent is lost the job. So many things happen. And because of that, there's a gap. And then to fill that gap is very difficult. But if we have this freedom of filling that gap by doing this, continuing the education after a gap of some time, I think that would be wonderful to definitely make a big, change in this and stop this kind of dropout of students in the education.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think those three, fear, boredom, and excitement of doing something wrong, can totally identify with those. With the permission of the panelists, you took me right back to my class 11 and 12 when my school was not very far from the largest football stadium in Calcutta. And we guys used to often decide that the football match of a particular day, if two large clubs are playing, would obviously become more important than maths or physics or whatever. And it reached a stage where even if there were like 2 drops of rainfall outside, a group of boys would go to the toilet, drench ourselves from the tap, come into the class and say, "Sir, we have gotten wet in the rain. We have to be sent home. Otherwise, we'll catch cold."
Mm.
And invariably end up at the football stadium watching whatever match was going on.
Right.
So yes, ma'am, I can totally understand that excitement bit very, very well. Tapasi ma'am, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, do you think this is more systemic, or are there people like me who are, giving the system a bad name? You'll have to unmute yourself, ma'am, please. Tapasi ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, ma'am.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Perfectly.
Thank you, Notebook, to give me a second chance to be with you people as a panelist. And the ball has already been rolled by Bharat sir and Achin sir. And Shakuntala madam has really told the wonderful 3 points. And the point which you have told, that the third point, the exciting one, sometime this is really an interesting topic. When we find any student taking the time gap from the school, that is the absent from the school, and doing the time, the investing on the time in some good works. Like, let me share with one such example from my school. One of my students of class 11, it has been found that after half yearly, he was quite absconding from the school. At that time, the mobile was not so much attached. But after a week, when the report came to me that this following child is not coming to the school, we started to call the parents. I have found that the parents' number is not working. And then I started to think in another way. What made it so? Then I came to know that I took my teacher along with a staff to go to his house, as because he comes from a very mediocre and he's a very excellent, an extraordinary child. He found a project of his very dear to his heart, and he felt that this would lead him to go to an upper scale of his academic career. So he was very much engrossed in making the project work, totally by himself. And when I went to his house, his parents were quite surprised. Ki madam aa gayi hai school mane ghar pe. I told, why you are absconding? What was the reason behind it? The mother was totally taken aback. She was not much known to it because he was not having his father. So when I asked him what was the reason behind him, he took him to his bedroom. Okay, madam, this was the reason behind it. I told, it is very excellent, wonderful, you're doing the research work. But shouldn't it have been that you should have given a little application to the school or to your class teacher, the reason behind it? Then I told him that you're absconding, no issue. You can cope up with the subjects which you have, which is going on in the class or in the school where you're then. But this project work, I know it will take you to a long run. Then when I went and meticulously, I told him to explain the project work, I was totally amazed. The child's thought about the nuclear weapons and all. And then my school, my teachers, my management people, they started to cooperate with the child. But with a warning that you have to come to school. I gave him a lapse of some time that you finish your work finish your project, and any type of help you would need it, the school is ready to help you in every pros and cons. He was very excited. Initially, he was very scared that what will be the reaction, or he will be suspended from the school, or he will be removed from the school. He was having that scaredness. But I took it in a positive way. My teachers took it in a positive way. My management cooperated with us. And now I could find him in one of the beautiful organizations of a multinational. So if the school, the teacher, the management understands the real cause of this bunking of the classes or bunking of the school, and making the child aware the pros and cons of it in a positive way, I think so. This challenging part is most interesting one, but it depends that what the child is doing with that precious time, particularly when the child is in class 11th and 12th. It's a very crucial stage, a turning transitional period of any child's life. If he does fairly well in the school academic career, he knows that there is a seat for him somewhere else. But if he fails, then that will be a great trauma to him and to the parents. So making the child understand the need and importance of schooling, the timing, obviously that, but natural that whatever the child does, if that if he takes the permission and deals up with it, then this type of thing will not come. But the challenging part, when the child took it, I really appreciated it. I didn't think that it is a worthwhile for him. And worthwhile, I found it that really he has done the work in a very better way. This part is very fine, but the other side, it is very pathetic. When we find from the other side of the coin, let me tell you another incident. The incident, a child, his number was there, everything was there, but everything was blocked. We are trying to contact him, but we cannot find him. Later on, after a good amount of days, he was absconding from school for 1 month. And that was very, very alarming. Whatever contacts he has given, everything was blocked. This is another story I'm telling. Then I had no other alternative. From the form, we took out his address. I sent a teacher and I requested meticulously to the teacher to tell the father and mother both to come to school. The parents came and they were totally shocked by the report what the school has given. Absconding from school for 1 month. What was the reason behind it? They were very, very happy parents. They were thinking my child is doing very well. Then we told him the total scorecard of him, that he is absconding from the school for last 1 month, did not give his unit test examination, and his fee due is for last 4 months. The father was totally taken aback. When the child was asked what he had done with the money, he has put his head down. Then we requested his father that the lodge where your son is staying, kindly go there and find out the total reason behind it. Because the lodge where he's staying, we are not having that address, or we would have gone there. The father took the child, and after 2 days, he returned back. He didn't come on that day to school. After 2 days, he came. He was totally shocked up because the child was with some certain friends who were at the wrong side, and resulted him to play a betting game in IPL. And the total money what his father used to give for his food, for his schooling, for his tuition fees, he all went in vain in playing in these games. So it is the dire need both of the school as well as of the parents, because now the system has come more easy. We coordinate with the parents more rapidly. 1 day or 2 days, if the child is absconding, it is sent to the guardians or to the parents. What is the reason behind it? But just 4-5 years back, the story was not the same. And we found it at time, the child, let me tell you, the second child, to pull him to concentrate in his study, it took a Herculean task, both for the parents as well as for the school. Everybody, we just told him one thing: you have to pass class 12. There is no other way out. You have to. And every pros and cons, we are there with you, coordinate with you, support you, guide you. Even, when he was called to the class, he was just an alien in front of his friends also. But to make him sit in the class with his class fellows, it took certain mental agony, both for the teachers as well as for the child. But we cooperated in every form, every way. We counseled him in a very regular form. And then at last he could concentrate and he could pass class 12. This was the two challenging factors, what we could say to it. Yes.
Wonderful, ma'am. In both of them, I think the common thread was how your school was so supportive, and I'm sure that really helped us both the students on. Chandni ma'am, if you can come to you next. Ma'am, if you could please switch on your camera. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, all of you, and thank you, Shivayu, for a good, so nice introduction and give me an opportunity for that as a panelist. So usually in last few years, about 6 to 7 months, 6 to 7 years, I worked in a rural area, and the condition of those areas is quite different from the cities. And I found that the reason behind the truancy is school as well as family and community. So in the school, if we will say about the school, we can say school environment as well as behavior of the teacher is also. And also I found that in different age group, suppose in the pre-primary and primary section, the reason is the different. In higher section, the reason is the different. Usually in pre-primary section, if we will talk about the pre-primary section, we found that they are very, especially if you are giving a lots of homework or lots of written work to the small kids, they are just, they don't want to come to school. As well as sometimes what happens, the behavior of teachers or friends, sometimes they are missing their friends, somebody left the school, so they miss the school and they don't want to come to the school. And sometimes with these small kids, I found that community is also playing a great role, because in rural area, they have the different socio-economic condition and different types of people. Some of the kids, they are not going to school. Some of the kids, they are going to government schools. And we found that because if children, they are staying at the home, their whole day they are playing, and to seeing the others to play whole day, they don't want to come to school. So this is also a reason. And when we come to the teenagers in higher section, we found that there are mostly they are getting bored, as ma'am told that boredom. So they are getting bored very, very quickly, as well as they have the pressure of studies also. So what happened, especially I found that that transit classes are there. Suppose pre-primary to primary when they are going, or 5th to 6th they are going, or 8th to 9th, or 10th to 11th. So these are the transit classes where the syllabus and curriculum is quite different, and they feel so much in that time. Other than that, I found that family is also very important role in the truancy. They play very important role in the truancy because in rural area, what happened? The mostly the people, they are based on the agriculture, and parents are not staying with the parents. Sorry, with the kids. The kids are staying with their maternal home or paternal home. So what happens? There are lack of emotion between them, and I think so. Sometimes what happened? The guardian, they are not encouraging them to go to school. Suppose anybody is absent, not coming to school for 2 to 3 days, they are not encouraging them. Then, and they are especially, they are not asking them that why you are not going to school. So this is the main reason. Other than that, I found that especially with boys, if they have the agriculture time, they will involve them. In the small business, if father has some work, so they will make them to sit in the shop. So these are the also reason for that. These are also some reasons. As well as I found that other than that, sometimes due to they are not living with the parents, they are emotionally better. So I want to share one case with all of you, that one boy, he was studying in our school from the beginning, but suddenly when he come to class 10th, he stopped to come to school. And what, after a long time, because it is board classes and it is very, very crucial for them to come to the school. So for their study, they should come to school. Then I asked them that, I asked the teachers that why he is not coming to the school. Then we are not getting any. I called them, but nobody is picking the phone because he is staying with his mama. And when I send the teachers and staff to his home, then I come to know now he is every day is leaving the home for the school and he is not coming. Then I call his parent, and lastly I come to know that he don't want to stay with their mamas and he want to stay with the parent, and parent kept him for the study. So he don't want to come to school. He told directly that mujhe nahi padhna. And then we counseled him a lot, his parent. Then he, at least he at the means I can say it is half of the year. After half of the year, he come to school, he finished here, his 10th, and then he go. So these are the basically we found that in the rural area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Right now, I'm feeling a little guilty that we were looking just at one end of the school spectrum, whereas at the other end of the spectrum, there's a whole other set of issues and reasons behind the same behavior. Thank you so much for widening our vision there. Shakuntala, if I can come back to you, ma'am, with much more of classes moving online, students not strictly speaking physically being in front of the teacher, do you think truancy will take a very different shape? I understand communication is more with parents now, but today the student is not there in front of you. You don't know if he's out somewhere with the phone logged in. You have to unmute yourself, ma'am.
Okay. So yes, this had, when we started with the online classes, that was the first thing that I noticed. And it was just the beginning. So children were very happy to, be there online, but be not there. So then I thought that it is also the onus is also on the school, on the teachers, that the children should attend. So how will they attend? Because there's no interaction happening. They're just listening to one person on the screen. It's quite boring. So that is when I looked up for a lot of interactive tools, and we started introducing those. Then we saw a change. Then we saw the children. I did the gamification, workshops with my teachers, and we converted most of our learning into games. And then we saw the change. So it's very clear. If you have to keep the interest of the student if you want them to be there. And parents usually don't take that onus. It's, I think, not fair on the teachers, but still, I feel that the teachers should do it, because ultimately, when we take on this, actually, the becoming a teacher itself, I think we take on this burden, this big responsibility of being responsible for the learning of the student. And whatever we need to do, we should do it, whether even if it is to convince the parent. So with the help of the parents, and for the little ones, the parents were made to sit there so that the children should be also online. Our pre-primary classes were totally activity based. There was no learning happening in the sense that, the regular, your traditional learning of a lesson of writing or things like that. Even the writing part was done in a fun way so that they could enjoy it. It was all activity based, and we shortened the time, because the attention span of children will not last so long. So we took all these precautions. This happened in 1 month when I saw what was happening. So we made all these changes, and then we saw the difference. Now, today, if you talk about children, they are dying to come to school. They want to come. They keep on saying, please, can we come? In fact, sometime in between, after a few months of not coming to school, the children kept on asking the teachers who were working from the school, in school, and they were taking the classes, online classes there. Ma'am, please take the camera around the classroom. We want to see a class. We want to see the corridor. We want to see the office. We want to see this. They were missing school so much. This is mostly the younger ones, let me tell you that. The older ones were very happy to be sitting and, playing games while the class was going on, because no one could see them. We also made it compulsory that the camera has to be on, so that we know that they are there and listening. And of course, every now and then we had to keep on reminding them. They would come up with reasons like connectivity is bad, there's not acceptable. If there's no connectivity, you'll have to come at a separate time. I'm ready for the teacher to talk one-on-one with you, to teach you one-on-one at whatever time you get your connection. Now that made it even more difficult for them. So they thought it's better to be in the class with the rest rather than to have a teacher, only the teacher and them, one-on-one. So I think we tried a lot of ways in which we could manage it that way. So we did solve the problem to a large extent. I won't say 100%, but yes, I think to a large extent, we were able to get them interested. We did a lot of activities also. We did tours, we did virtual tours with them. So in those virtual tours also, we had activities. So we had every week, there would be one such program where the children would be interested and come to be in the classroom. And because I personally feel it's not only about what's there in the books, it's not about knowledge, it's more about skills now. And we've all seen NEPs totally talking about skill-based learning, experiential learning. We have been doing this for the past 10 years actually, because everywhere I go around the world and I've been seeing the strategies that are being used there, the different pedagogy that is being used, and I would bring them all back to our school. And our school is a CBSE school, but for our whole curriculum is totally international. Till 8th standard, we have an international curriculum, which I've made myself because of all the experience that I've had. And after 9th, we of course follow the CBSE, so that our children are ready for that CBSE kind of learning, which requires the rigorous learning that they need, extensive kind of learning that they need. But they are well prepared because they've learned a lot of things. The skills are there for them to be able to use them in their learning. So I think that has worked very well with our school. So I guess this is something that the pandemic has made the children want to come to school.
Wonderful, ma'am. We hope that mindset lasts way beyond.
Yes. But again, it depends on the school. I personally feel that it is our responsibility to make sure, and of course, in collaboration with the parents. We cannot rule that out. It has to be a joint effort between the two, the school and the parents, And that is the only way in which we can take care of this.
Wonderful. Tapsram, if we can come to you again. Ma'am, the problem is truancy has been glorified in too many places, right from Mark Twain to Tare Zameen Par, and multiple web series, movies that students are now consuming online. Truancy is glorified as this extremely adventurous act. And you know the pitfalls of it. You have yourself had a student who went into extremely risky circumstances because of playing truant. How do you sensitize the students, especially when they're away from school and learning online?
Actually, in an initial stage, when the children come, whether it is in the, it has already been told that the problem of truancy in every level of classes are different. When it is in the primary section, the thing is different. When it is in the senior secondary and secondary, that is also a bit different. And there is a bit different in the senior secondary between girls and boys also. Initially in the, for the primary section, if I talk about, particularly the teacher who takes moral values classes or any other subject, any subject, you know, we always give some time in a week, 2-3 days, that the need and importance that to take challenge is very good, but excess of everything is poisonous. Doing experiment with anything which is sharpened in the primary section or primary class, we tell, but do it. But there should be any guardian or parents or seniors who would help you if there is any type of accident. They are being told that when you come out of the house, you want to go to some marketplace or anything, be careful how the rules and regulations, the safety measures are being told to them. But when they come to the secondary level, you know, the children think, I know everything. Then why the accident? Particularly the bike riders. You know, it is one of the havoc, the place where I stay. You know, children, they love it, they take the challenge, and sometimes they meet with accidents also. And when a child has met the accident, we tell in the class, in the open forum, we tell them that why is it so? Who is responsible for it? Where you were not having the license, but you went with the vehicle. So you see, you have met an accident, you face the consequence. Your parents had to pay with money, with the time, with the law, everything. What did you gain out of it? In the classroom, when they are told, they listen. And in the senior secondary, again, if I go to that classes, you know, children take it as, you know, it is a fun game of bunking these classes and going out without informing, without intimating. And when they share in the latter course of the time, you know, we come to know the goodness of it. But if it is positive, we all are happy because everybody wants a happy ending. But if it is of anything which comes with accident, with a life fatalism is there, then that is very scary. The children are given in a regular way the classes regarding the same, the good and the bad. Having friend is a blessing. Having a true friend is really a worth of one's life. But having a friend who would ditch you, make you into a pit hole, then that is very scary of one's life. So these time and again, they are being told, they are being channelized, they are being processed in this, even, you know, we call the guardian, we call their parents, sometimes even we call the expertise. The expertise also we call them to our morning assembly to address the children, particularly those road safety measures. We call the Department of Transport. You know, people come over to our school, they teach this and guide the children. And in this way, we try as far as possible to minimize the challenges, the thrilling of the life in a positive way. Thank you.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Chandni ma'am, I'll quickly come to you because you spoke about students who were bunking school because of having to sit in the family shop or tending to family agricultural work. What do you do? How do you deal with such cases? What do you tell the parents? What do you tell the students?
I think, Shubhayu, the communication is the best way between the teachers, students, school bodies, and parents. If we communicate with each other and we come to the root cause, that what is the cause, and then we have to solve the problem for them. Because sometimes, and we have to aware the parents also that school is also important. Okay, it is good they are helping them. It is very good. I am always encourage them that you have to help your parents. But parents should also think that their study is also very important and school is also important. So if in the between time or in holidays, they can help them. And I'm telling Shubhayu, the students of these kids are very hard workers. And in the evening when they are going to going from the school, they are working so hard in the field, and then they are coming to the home and they study at home. So their life is really very, very, very hard. Not like in cities they have now. So, but I think motivation and communication is the best policy by which we can reduce this thing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This is absolutely inspirational stuff. Well, we are down to the last question. We have one question from a member in the audience who says that our students belong to very good families, but we are observing that children don't want to come to school for offline classes due to their fear of COVID, transportation, etc., nor attending online classes. As a maths teacher, I'm upset, even if I'm trying to make it interesting by sharing math songs related to topic, videos, etc. Following up on this question, I will ask all of you, all three of you, to name two strategies each in ways in which teachers that are attending here can stop students from wanting to bunk or essentially make them want to attend their classes. What should those two strategies be? Shakuntala ma'am, if we may start with you.
Yeah, again, I would say you have to make it interesting enough for them. For example, give them an example which they can use. Give them a project which they're going to work on, where they will research or do something. Learning doesn't mean sitting in a classroom and listening to a teacher or reading a book. Learning means learning hands-on. So what the teachers can do, give them a very interesting, project. Question where there's a detective. You're a detective and you have to find out certain things. And you make up a story in which they will have to use their own learning in order to come to the conclusion. These are the things which will interest them, depending on the age group also. And as I said, that is what I learned from gamification, which reminds me, I attended one of your notebook gamification webinars. I've attended almost every webinar on gamification because this is something which I was very keen to learn. And I found out also a lot of games that can be woven around every topic so that the children want to do it. So I know they don't want to, I understand they don't want to come for offline classes. I myself feel a little, apprehensive calling the children to school because we are putting them at risk. Evidently, now with the new Omicron again coming in, we don't know how safe it is going to be. We don't want to risk the children's health because that is of paramount importance. Learning, I feel, doesn't matter for 1 year if they miss it. I am saying, what is the big deal? The health is more important. So doesn't matter. Parents also should understand. No need to get panicky. एक साल बच्चों का खराब हो गया, नहीं हुआ. Instead, if we can teach them some skills like this, which are very practical, making them do some experiment at home, telling them to work out something. I do have one very interesting game in which I talked about this detective thing. So there was this detective who had to find out that one person is murdered and there are so many suspects, and you have to eliminate the suspects by finding out the distance traveled by them. So they have to measure the kilometers. Then there is about the weight of what they had. So 2-3 things together, put together in such a way, they are using all the elements that they have learned, the major mathematical rules that they have, applying it, and then at the end finding out who the murderer is by eliminating the ones who could not have done it. I mean, how interesting is that? I personally wanted to play myself. So if an adult can want to do it, I'm sure children would love it even more. So we have to learn to make it like, if they can't learn how we teach, let us teach how they learn. That's what I would say.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Tapsi, ma'am, 2 strategies.
Ajay, 2 strategies. One is regular taking online test. This will help them to tap, and they are bound to read. Number 1. And number 2, if I talk about, assignments should be given, and within the assignments, the teacher can ask anybody in the class of the online virtual classes, to explain regarding it, what has been taught, what has been done. In this way, they have no other option. Particularly, this is for the students of 9, 10, and 11, and 12, because they have to study. There is no shortcut. They have to read. Hard work they have to do if they want to fare in their life. We all want to fly in the sky, but we tell them, you are sure to fly in the sky, but let your 2 legs be grounded, because for taking fuel, you have to come down to take. So you have to study. There is no other shortcut method. Yes, gamification is there, many, but for the senior students, we cannot, because they are losing time. In the virtual classes also, there are many methods the teacher has to adopt. In my school also, my teachers have told, in the online classes or in the offline classes, the children are not interested, but we have to create that interest. We have to make sure that the many type of methods have come out, many type of tools have come out, better use them. And next is that short test, better you take it. If they fail, again you take a retest. If they pass, it is fine. If they fail again they have to sit for the examination after a span of some time, but they have to pass. There is no other short way, because this is one of the way to make the children to be with their studies, because 9, 10, 11, 12, we cannot take any other means. You have to do it. It is this method, and I follow that method. Again, if you are failing, again you sit for examination. And next is that if they are not getting the concrete, after 3rd time, if they are not clearing that examination, I tell my teacher, you change the method of your study. Change the method. If you change the method, it may be that will create interest on the topic, and you can get a healthy result out of it. This is my method.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for those strategies, especially for those senior classes. Chandni, ma'am, if you can get your strategies.
Yeah. Shubha, either it is online class or offline class, no matters. I think, and I observe it also, and it may be math, science, social science, whatever the subject. If you make the content so easy and simple for the students, then they will interested on the subject and they will study properly. First, So make the subject, your content very simple, not very complicated. And second thing, by giving some tricks, some examples, you connect it with their day-to-day life or their real life, then it becomes easy for all the teachers. So these 2 points of my side, Subayu.
Wonderful, ma'am. Great. So there you have it. Some great takeaways. 6 strategies right for you. Let me just quickly run through the list once. I was seriously taking notes while you were teaching. Uh, we have interesting thoughts, gamification. That's to engage across age groups. Particularly for senior class students, you should take regular tests and assignments with spot quizzes that will keep students on their toes, and making the content really easy and simple, and make sure that there is relevance and there's a personal connect that you can establish between the content and the learner. Wonderful, some great 6 ideas there. I know we can go on with this for the rest of the evening, but I think we've overshot our time limit, so we'll have to draw this to a close. Once again, thank you all so very much for sparing your time. I understand with the CBSE board exams going on, this could not have been easy, and we are seriously indebted to you for making this happen. Bharat sir, thank you so much once again for that brilliant opening. I think you asked a very valid question, and I think you've given us a topic for one of our upcoming webinars. Should education be made compulsory? Something that is particularly close to my heart, and I think we'll debate on that fairly quickly. Also, sir, keeping the parents and teachers abreast, both sides informed at all times of what's happening, keeping them connected and having clear communication channels. I think you highlighted that importance, and that is so very important, sir. Thank you so much for bringing that to us. Chandni ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. Your stress on the importance of communication and motivation, I think, stays with all of us, in not just in cases of truancy, but I think for every bit of school education, if motivation of the students and clear communication between the parents and the teachers keep on happening, I think that goes a long way in solving whatever problems. Tapashi ma'am, thank you so much for being here once again. And I think the understanding that you have shown to your students who have absconded, whatever may be the reason, be it a great project, be it betting on IPL matches, but the level of understanding and humanity you have shown to those cases, I think is a learning for all of us that we go home with. Thank you for so much for sharing that with us. Shakuntala ma'am, thank you so much for being here once again. I think your understanding of special education needs that we have grown now, vis-a-vis what was there earlier, and people not feeling like coming to class because of those reasons, was a very valid point. We have discussed special education needs on this platform before, but that it leads to truancy was one of the symptoms. It is very important that now we take all cases of truancy to counselors as well, and make sure that we don't miss out on the underlying issues. Ma'am, you also highlighted 2 things, which was the shorter attention span of young learners and the need for storytelling, which particularly resonated with me, and I'm sure the entire notebook team here. Because when we are creating videos at Notebook, those are the 2 things that we always keep in mind, which is why Notebook videos are typically between 6 to 10 minutes in length and never longer than that. And storytelling is something that's fundamental to everything that we teach, even math, science, whatever. We try and start with a story. Well, this has been a fantastic discussion. Once again, thank you so much to all of you for making the time to be here. To this wonderful audience who, despite a very pressing schedule from the CBSE, you have made time today evening to be here with us. We hope that you will keep on supporting us in our future endeavors, and we will see you soon in our next webinar. Until then, take care and goodbye.
Thank you, Subhayu.
Thank you, Subhayu. Good night.
Thank you, Notebook team.
Thank you very much, Nit.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can we leave now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much to all of you.